Today we have an international health professional panel.
The most powerful doctors panel that you've ever heard. It is powerful because it is about the new horizons of medicine. It is powerful because it represents where we're all going as wellness consultants as we distribute the information, which is the business that we're in, to people in every country on this planet. I am supremely honored to be with this group of men and women, and we are here to share with you a story that I think will give you something to empower you to take the message forward. The first person I'd like to introduce is Dr. Dick Walker. The reason I'm excited to be up here with Dick Walker is the fact that here's a gentleman that has climbed Mount Everest twice. Here's a man who has been at far reaches of this planet, Mount McKinley, which he tells me was colder than Mount Everest, to the South Pole. And I've asked Dr. Walker to, well, Dick, why don't you tell us a little bit about you first before I tell him what you're going to talk about?
Sure. I'm an emergency physician from Spokane, Washington. I've been involved with Nikken for 7 years. Actually, Nikken has been probably the most exciting adventure that I've been on. But I love risk and I love challenges, and I love to go to weird, exotic, and usually cold places. If we really starting about climbing and how it can be used as a metaphor for doing Nikken and improving your health, we'll be here all afternoon. But I'm excited about this. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak. I am an emergency physician. I still do practice medicine in the emergency room, which I've done for the last 23 years. I have a little bit of a background in preventive medicine. I've got a master's degree in prevention medicine and environmental health. But I've learned more about prevention in the 7 years that I've been in Nikken than I ever came close to in taking that master's program.
Now, Dr. Walker, yes. Now, Dr. Walker, because you know so much about challenge, I'd like you, please, sir, to, number one, tell us the most outstanding Nikken product experience that you've ever had. And then I'll ask you to speak about one other thing. So what's been the most outstanding Nikken product experience that you've either personally had or have seen with one of your patients?
I'll speak about a personal one just because those are always the nearest and dearest to our hearts, is what these products I think have done personally. My Nikken journey started long before I was aware of it, and it started when I began to do adventure sports. And when you do adventure sports, unless you have an angel on your shoulder all the time, you accumulate injury after injury after injury, some of them minor, some of them major. A year and a half after I returned from Mount Everest, I was climbing in Canada, and I love watching this Generation X panel because at that point in time I was climbing at a pretty high level of technical climbing, and most of my partners were at least 10 years younger than I was. So it was fun to be around that energy, and it definitely rubs off. But we had made a very technically difficult, challenging climb in the British Canadian Rockies. And as we came down, the storm moved in, and so we got a little bit sloppy and started taking shortcuts, and we were rappelling, and the second rappel anchor that we set up failed, and I fell about 20 or 30 feet and almost got killed. And it was that experience that 6 years later led me to Nikken, because I had accumulated a problem with my back that nothing that I had tried through Western medicine gave me any relief. I had actually tried what I call the accepted alternatives like chiropractic and acupuncture. I got a little bit of relief from those, but not all that much. And that tended to be a mind-opening experience. And when a physical therapist friend of mine, you see, we doctors get introduced to these products just like everybody else does, usually by a friend, usually by somebody that we know and trust, who is reaching out to help us. And he offered me some of these products. I thought that he'd gone a little bit off the deep end. I'd never heard of magnetics in any of my reading. But within a period of several weeks, starting with what we call the back flex and a pair of magnets in my shoes, hiding them so nobody really knew that I was using them, and then in short order, seeing some results with that, the suggestion was made by Jerry White, that physical therapist, that I try Sleep System as really the best solution for my problems. And the second night on that Sleep System, for the first time in years, I slept 8 hours. I'd averaged probably 2-3 hours a night before that because of my back problem. And within another couple of weeks, I got most of my flexibility back. And within a month or two, I was back to climbing, rollerblading, whitewater rafting, and all of the things that I had missed for about 6 years. And so the Sleep System is by far my favorite product.
Well, thank you. He just looks like an adventurer, doesn't he? When you look at him, doesn't he look like Dr. Walker, I'd ask you to address one other thing, if you would, please. Since you are so familiar with challenge, the new horizon of medicine that's coming, what do you see as the challenges that all the people in the allopathic medical community might see, and also the people who are wellness consultants? What are the major challenges that you see that the new horizons of, in particular, Nikken brings to the community?
Thanks for asking that. That's one of my favorite topics. You know, we in North America and in the world face one of the biggest challenges, I think, that mankind has ever faced, and that is the quality of our health and wellness. And if we do not find a solution for this challenge, there will be untold suffering in the human race for many generations to come. We have epidemics of cancer, of diabetes, of heart disease, of stroke, of arthritis. I could go on. And these are things that in the technological age that we live in now, we really should not have, I think. These are problems that the Western medical system, left as is, without making changes towards an integrated system, is woefully inadequate in addressing. We have a very high-tech system that functions very well for certain things. I happen to be in an emergency room, which is one of the showcase areas for the high technology that we have developed. And it is rare any longer for somebody to come to an emergency room in the United States and die in the first hour or two. We have become excellent at resuscitating and saving and plugging up holes and doing those sorts of emergency things. And because of that technology, we have convinced a number of people, unfortunately, that they don't need to take personal responsibility for their health, and that they can just muddle their way through, and that when disaster strikes, we will save them. And unfortunately, that is often the furthest thing from the truth, because they almost never leave that hospital as good as they were before disaster strikes. And so we must look for a different answer. These problems that we have are the result of not breathing the right kind of air. They're the result of not drinking the right kind of water. They're the result of not eating the right kind of nutrition. They're the result of not exercising like we should have. This isn't rocket science. We have the answers. The problem is in educating people that the solution is there. And it's interesting, we always say at these conferences that magnets and far infrared, that we don't cure or heal anything. But I want you to go away from this talk today, this conference, understanding that Nikken has the most powerful, the most intentional, the most incredible products in the world at giving our bodies the tools to be well. And what I want you to understand is that when we use those tools and when we become well, that our bodies are oftentimes now empowered to overcome many of these chronic and degenerative diseases that Western medicine just doesn't do very well at. And I think the challenge is not just for allopathic medicine to embrace and incorporate this. The challenge is for you, the wellness consultant, for you, the person with no medical background, for you, the person who, and I think this is an old Native American saying, I think, and I can't remember where I got this, but it goes that the person who suffers the consequence is the person who should have the power to do something about it. And so you are here to empower people to be well. You are here to educate people that there is a different path that can be walked. And that, quite frankly, it is the only path that will address this challenge that we have, because we cannot conquer these epidemics by trying to fix them after they happen. We can only conquer them by addressing the root causes.
Dr. Dick Walker. Thank you, Dr. Walker. I know we could go on on that topic. Well, next I'd like to hear from Dr. Robin Ekholm. Robin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm an osteopathic physician, and I have done family practice and urgent care, and I did a little emergency room when I first started, back when I took the low shift and had to do all the night shift. And I now also work with travel medicine, and I was originally raised in South Dakota and got a BA in biology and chemistry at the University of South Dakota, and then I snuck to the warm down to the University of Miami and got my RN there, and then got coached into coming back to Kirksville, Missouri, where I got my degree in osteopathic medicine, and I've practiced in Portland, Oregon for the last 121 years.
Well, that's very good. She only looks 12.
Thank you so much, Roger.
Anyway, so I know that you recently did something that you're very excited about.
Extremely.
Do you want to share with us?
Absolutely. As a result of 2.5 years of being exposed to Nikken, I sold my practice last Wednesday. And I'm so excited because now Nikken becomes #1 in my life. One of the frustrations that I've had for the last 2.5 years since I've been introduced to Nikken is that I needed to try to see patients and run a practice that was really quite busy and very overwhelming. And we talked about having 8 days a week and 36 hours a day, and I couldn't find anybody who could give that to me. So I will be working with travel medicine and Nikken full time, and I'm very excited about that.
So medicine generally is changing. Could you give our audience a feel for how you as a physician feel that medicine's face is changing, the way we perceive it as both a consumer and the caregiver?
Surely. When I started 21 years ago, basically there were 30 people who vied for my spot in medical school. I don't know the exact statistics now, but I know it's far less. It's a much more difficult career. It's not being able to practice the art of medicine, but basically we're expected to fix people, as Dr. Walker said, after they have done everything and anything to not take care of themselves. And if they don't get a good outcome, it's never their fault. It's always our fault. When I started in my medical career, basically everybody that I was exposed to in osteopathic medicine was in general practice, family practice. And I came from a small town where you had the same doctor who delivered the babies and did the surgeries and saw you in the hospital and took care of you in the office. And when I first came into practice, that was still pretty much true. And then what happened is everybody decided that there should be specialization, and everybody had their rheumatologist, their orthopedist, their cardiologist, and there was really not any central focus and anybody at the hub of the wheel, so to speak. In osteopathic medicine, we're trained to look at the whole person, and 75% of us tend to be in general or family practice. I started out, as I said, I did emergency room, I took care of hospitalized patients, and I also did obstetrical care. And 4 years into my practice in Portland, Oregon, malpractice rates went through the roof, and they went from $1,800 a year to $50,000 a year projected. I wasn't making $50,000 a year, and I was paying $4,500 a month in student loan repayments before taxes, before I ate, before I slept, etc. So I was working 120 hours a week, and I did that for 17 months without a day off. If you come from the Midwest, you have a work ethic, basically. And so what happened was I had to make a decision about giving up one of the things that I love most and one of the things that builds a family practice. And what happened was that I had to quit doing obstetrics, and a lot of people had to quit doing obstetrics, and even a lot of the OBGYNs quit doing obstetrics because malpractice just got overwhelming. It was a significant crisis in rural America. Then what happened is physicians have said, okay, if we're going to play this game, we need to go from small 1 and 2 doctor groups to hundreds. And I remember hearing an administrator say, that's where medicine's going to be. And I thought, that's amazing. That's no way can that happen. And sure enough, 4 years later, that's what happened. And now it's coming back for full circle. And Roger, as Roger says, we have mangled care. And managed care is now going by the wayside, but they came in and they were going to take the healthcare system and completely revise it. And what they basically did was put blinders on us, tie our hands behind our back, and say, now, heal. And it isn't possible. It wasn't possible. And we were expected to see more and more patients in a shorter period of time. And my love was to help people have a quality of life. That's why I went into medicine. That's why Nikken works for me, because it's a way to help people see and have a quality of life. And then once you have a quality, then you can have a quantity. So now what's happening is everything has become more and more difficult. We spend more and more time doing paperwork, more and more hours doing administrative things, less and less time with people. And one of the reasons that I was moved to sell my practice is 3 years ago, there was a projection in Portland that said by 2003, 50% of Oregon physicians will have retired, moved, or changed careers. They were wrong. It was 2002. And I used to be able to call and get 6 physicians to work part-time for me if I wanted a vacation, a time off, or just a day off to do paperwork. And I got to where there was none. And so I was working 7 days a week, pretty much by myself, and 24 hours a day. And that's where medicine has gone to. And now we need to put it back in the hands of patients, and that is and wellness and health, and that's where it will happen. Medicine is going to go into a crisis. I'm not exactly sure when it's going to crash. It will be soon. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to come out looking like, but I know that it must have in it responsibility for people for their own health and wellness. And Nikken has some of the most wonderful products in the world to help them know how to do that.
Robin, you hit it right on the head. What's the most outstanding product experience that you've witnessed, either personally or with a patient, with the Nikken technologies?
Well, I had a wonderful one about a month ago. Some of the other ones I've had you've heard on. Of course it works. This was a lady who was actually not a patient of mine, but the wife of a patient of mine who had an injury when she was 18 to her neck, and she had a herniated disc, and then was in a motor vehicle accident 2 years ago, and she was losing the function of her hands and her shoulders, and had some significant nerve damage. So they determined that she needed to have a disc repair, and she was supposed to be on surgery for about 45 minutes and then be out. Well, 4.5 hours later, they brought her back out of surgery. Instead of having 1 level repaired, she had 3 levels repaired. And part of that process causes them to have their head put all the way back like that. And when she came out, she couldn't swallow on the right side. She couldn't feel anything going down her throat, so when she tried to swallow, she choked. She couldn't feel the side of her face along her jaw all the way to her chin. And she had lots of spasms. She couldn't move her head more than 5 degrees either way, and couldn't put it down, couldn't put it back. And so she called me and she said, okay, I'm tired of taking these pain medicines because I can't have a life. I want to know what that magnetic stuff does. And I said, great, come on down. So she came down and I sat down to talk with her. And first what I did was I walked over and put a palm mag on the back of her back. And as I turned around, she said, could it be done? I said, excuse me? She said, could it be done? And I thought maybe the palm mag batteries had run out. And I turned around and I said, no. What do you mean? And she said, I don't feel anything no pain going down my arms. And so I shut off the palm mag and she said, it's back. And we did that twice, and my eyes just got huge. I said, I wish I had a video player at this point in time to take this. And so I turned around and I sat down in my chair, and I had given her a glass of Mag water. And in about 20 minutes, she reached down as she was talking to me and listening and started to swallow this water. And she said, oh, that's amazing. I said, what's amazing? She said, I can feel it going down my throat for the first time in 4 weeks. And 35 minutes later, we stopped the palm mag treatment, and at that point in time, she could feel the sensation almost out to the end of her chin. And I said to her, let's see what your motion is. And she said, I'm afraid to. I said, well, you couldn't swallow, and now you can, and you couldn't feel it, and now you can, and your face was numb, and now it isn't. Go ahead and move. And she turned, and she went this far, all the way down to her chest, and all the way back, and her eyes were absolutely huge. That was the most amazing response that I've seen from any Nikken product.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ekholm. Dr. Furl, Dr. James Furl, Dr. Jim Furl, whatever you prefer.
Jim's good.
Jim's good. Obstetrician gynecologist, been in practice how long?
About a little over 28 years until retiring about 3 years ago.
Tell the audience a little bit about you. Went to school, a little bit your experience.
I'm from right here in Portland, homegrown, born and raised here. Come from a medical family. My father was a physician also, same specialty, and was also a private practice, and he was a clinical professor at the medical school here, and so teaching and education was important to him. And I went to school here, Oregon Health and Science University. After medical school, got my specialty training on the East Coast after a couple years in the Air Force, and then back to Portland to practice medicine in the community and be involved in the state and county medical societies and all the hospital things until I retired.
Jim, you're actually a flight surgeon. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I kind of had two careers. My main career, obviously, was being an obstetrician and gynecologist and taking care of women's health care problems and delivering babies. And nights and weekends, as a weekend warrior, I was a member of the Oregon Air National Guard for until about 24 years. Being a flight surgeon, which means taking care of the pilots. In this instance, we're a fighter squadron, so taking care of and flying with our pilots.
Fascinating. 2 generations of doctors in the family. I know that probably when you first saw these technologies, the products, if you will, that you probably had to take pretty much of an introspective look. Could you tell us about your experience, about how you felt about the products?
Yeah, that's really an understatement. I'm like most, maybe not 100%, nothing's 100%, but most people in the allopathic medicine world, not skeptical, but really quite close-minded. And I really was. I'm a pretty mild-mannered guy, but when a very good friend and colleague of mine is also a urologic surgeon here in Portland, approached me because I had been limping around for a few months, and one day we were going into surgery together at the same time, had cases, and he says, what's the matter? And he said, oh, my feet have been terrible, and I've done all the standard things, treated myself, waited, saw an orthopedist, got some stuff for my shoes, and nothing's working, and we're kind of down to the point of needles or surgery. And even though I'm a surgeon, I wasn't anxious to have my feet operated on. But he said, well, I know about these things you can put in your shoes, they're magnets. This guy's is got the driest sense of humor, and I knew he was setting me up for a joke, so I just laughed and went on. Well, two other doctors I respect a lot. One's a perinatologist, and one's an anesthesiologist, who is a very quiet guy, and really everything he says, you can stand behind what he says is the right thing to do, and trust him with doing the anesthetics for my patients going under surgery. So he suggested, and in fact came into the office, put these things in my shoes, and so I said, okay. I went and saw a wellness preview where I was also shown some other products. And that opened my mind enough, because I saw some benefit from both the things in my shoes, not dramatic, but enough that I wanted to hear more. So that's why I'm here.
What is the most outstanding product experience that you've had either personally or with one of your patients?
Well, I've seen so many things, both in myself, my personal family, my wife, my grandkids, and patients. I did not use the products a lot in my practice. I used them some, but that was in the beginning. Like we've heard here before, I was somewhat embarrassed, and I didn't want the medical community to think I'd gone nuts, and so I wanted to keep getting referrals. So it wasn't totally well known until I retired. But I guess I have to say that the most significant, maybe not the most dramatic, but the most significant, was my personal experience. The mag steps in my shoes and the sleep system at night. Because I wouldn't be here today. There's no way I'd have done this if I hadn't seen enough to know that these were doing some things for me. And they didn't do it overnight. They did it, the things in my shoes, the mag steps along with Mag Boys did help fairly quickly. And the sleep system helped short-term in one respect and long-term in another respect. But they were enough to get me interested. And so, to me, that's the most significant experience.
Thank you, Dr. Farrell. Let's give him a hand. Many years ago, about 12 years ago, when I was sharing this with other physicians and dentists in my community, I was at a staff meeting at the hospital. We did a lot of dental implants at the time, and they summoned me into a boardroom there, and there were about 15 other physicians and nurses in there, and they gave me a present all tied up in a nice pretty bow, and they said, why don't you open it up? I said, gee, it's not my birthday. It's What's this about? Oh, open it up. We have something for you. So I opened up this bow and took the paper off, and inside there was a red cloth, and they said, take it out. And I took it out, and on the back, it was a cape. And on the back, it said, Magnet Man. I don't know, Jim, if you had that kind of... I never did wear that cape. But I've been thinking about going back to the hospital and walking down the hall and fluffing it like this and say, so, how's managed care going for you? Dr. Yehiel Magori, I have a question for you. I have in front of me historic research from the Archives of Physical Medicine, May of this year. It's about a study that relates to people that suffer from problems with peripheral neuropathy, secondary to type 2 diabetes and AIDS and some other drug responses. This one in particular is about people with type 2 diabetes. Now, as a physician, then I want to get back to a little bit about you, but as a physician, starting with that, how do you feel research of this caliber will impact the allopathic community as we begin to bridge allopathic medicine with the new horizon?
Well, I think that this is actually going to have a very dramatic effect on the medical community and the healthcare professionals, simply because they are so focused on double-blind crossover placebos, and these particular studies are exactly that. Having been involved in energy medicine way back at 28 years ago, I was one of the very first acupuncturists in Toronto, so I'm aware and I know that at that time when I used to do acupuncture, people used to tell me, you're placeboing the patients, and I used to say to them, look at the results that I'm getting. And now, of course, acupuncture is the mainstream of all kind of physiotherapy departments, at least in Toronto, that I deal with. I think that as these particular studies become more well known and physicians begin to, and healthcare professionals begin to actually look at them with open eyes, they'll begin to utilize them as readily as they use acupuncture.
Dr. Magori, tell us a little bit about you now that we got started that way.
Well, I've been in family practice for 31 years. My father was a lawyer by profession. He was an educator by avocation. And he told me, get as many degrees as you can, you'll be as busy as you'd ever want to be. And he was very, very right. I got a degree in science. I got a degree in medicine. I got certification in family practice. I have a diploma in acupuncture. I have a diploma in clinical hypnosis. When I realized at the 25th year that I wasn't getting to where I really wanted to go, I said, well, take a master's degree in business and find out how to do business. And so I got a master's degree in business. And my final year in business, somebody approached me with respect to the Nikken business, and they asked me to give them, five names of some of my chronic patients every day for a couple of weeks. And at the end of that, I was able to see the change in the quality of life that these patients have had, where conventionally I was unable to do anything with. But at the same time, having the business background now, I was actually able to look at this business and say, my God, what a business. Show me a business in this world where for the efforts you put in today, you get paid forever and ever in an exponential way. There's no such business in the world. So I said to this person, sign me under you, and I'll start doing the business as soon as I graduate. And then the next thing that I got was actually, 2 weeks ago, I was conferred the fellow of the College of Family Practice.
Wow. Dr. Magori's credentials go on and on, don't they? Dr. Magori, you know that Nikken has formed an affiliation with the University of California at Irvine Medical School. You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, they've actually created an association with a very highly reputable university, which again lends credibility to the fact that conventional medicine and medically oriented individuals are now beginning to see that there is something there with Oriental and ancient medicines. As I said to you, I started with energy medicine about 28, 29 years ago, and for me it was an easy transition because I was always willing to sort of look at new things of ways of how to deal with people. I can see that with this particular, all you need to do is look at the latest Scientific American journal, the September issue, and they talk about magnetic stimulation of the brain, magnetic stimulation of your body. There's no question in my mind that as time goes by, more and more people begin to realize that magnets affect the function of our bodies, and they actually use that functional magnetic MRI, which actually is able to measure what happens to your body as it changes, as it functions and alters.
Thank you, Dr. McGorry. We were talking about acupuncture. I remember when acupuncture first came to the United States. How many people remember when acupuncture first came here? How many people thought it might be like voodoo? Yeah, I remember I did. I mean, but I can't, where I lived in Hilton Head, you can't say voodoo. Because they still practice voodoo on Hilton Head Island. That's the truth. But I'm safe right here in Portland. But now we know that although acupuncture doesn't represent a panacea, that is, it doesn't cure everything, it certainly does represent another tool for our armamentaria that we use in medicine. And now guess what? Qigong is coming, or Gigong, depending on whether they're talking about Chinese or Japanese. Dr. McGorry made me think about this. You know, in the Korean medical schools, the departments of Qigong or Gigong are bigger than the departments of acupuncture. And oh, by the way, Korea is 6,000 years old. We're 220 years old and think we know everything. The Korean people forgot more about the body than we've learned yet. It's all about energy. It's about energy. Thank you, Dr. McGorry. Dr. McGorry, wait a minute. How about a outstanding product experience?
I have many, but the one that really touches me is one with my stepson. My stepson he and his brother were born with degenerative lung diseases. His brother actually passed on at age 9.5 about 6 years ago. When the water system first was introduced, and I was there in Anaheim, I came home and I told Maria I was so excited about this water. This water is just phenomenal. If it does half the things of what I think it can do, you know, Julian has to be on it. So we started to put him on this water, and he began to drink this water. And this particular child, by the way, let me just preface it, that he was going to Sick Children's Hospital in Toronto, and he was doing pulmonary function studies, which measures his ability to breathe, his ability to expel air out of his lungs. And he was hovering at around 84, 85%. His mother, the wonderful woman that I married, gives him chest physiotherapy 3 times a day. So she'd pad his chest for about 20 minutes, give him inhalation using some Ventolin 3 times a day. So comes October and the water system comes in, and Maria begins to feed him this water and utilize it in the cooking and juices, etc. About a week before he went back to Sick Children's in February, we got some max steps, we cut him into size, and he was using a necklace and began to sleep on the system. The reason that there was a delay in terms of the magnetics because his mother, Maria, who's now my wife, did not believe that magnets have any impact on people's physiology. So it took a while for that to take place. The long or the short of it was when he actually arrived back again at Sick Children's Hospital in February, this little guy blew a 97%. Now, you have to understand that this particular lung condition does not get better. It degenerates. Yet here, over a period of 3 months, it actually improved. And he maintained it up to now, by the way.
I'm privileged to have sitting next to me a gentleman who has brought to us a great deal of information. He is not part of the Nikken family per se. He's an independent business person. He functions, as you heard in the larger session, in validating technology, high-tech technology. And Curtis Bennett, I have in front of me a reprint of a Journal of American Medical Association article, and I quote Dr. Barbara Starfield from Johns Hopkins University. She indicated this, that among 29 countries, the United States is second only to Japan in the availability of magnetic resonance imaging units and computed tomography scanners per million. Japan, however, ranks highest in health, whereas the U.S. ranks the lowest, among the lowest. Is it possible, in your opinion, Curtis, that the high use of technology in Japan is limited to diagnostic technology, not matched by high rates of treatment, whereas in the United States, high use of diagnostic technology may be linked to more treatment? What are your comments about, first of all, let's welcome Curtis Bennett. How do you feel about diagnostic technology as it relates to being used for treatment versus as an excuse for treatment versus being used for treatment?
Okay, diagnostic technology is used, but it's not really verified afterwards as to how it's affecting issues. Something that we're doing with this technology is we want to take this a step further, and by allowing people to actually see the befores and afters and giving doctors this information so that they can use this not only as a diagnostic technology, but to look and to verify any remedial treatment afterwards.
You know, I've seen some studies where people that suffer from different forms of arthritis, after repeated MRIs for diagnostic purposes, have found that their full range of motion is returning to their fingers and lack of discomfort. Could you comment on the possibility of why that's possible?
Well, it's interesting because something that we're forgetting just when you go with the basics of life and when you talk about how ancient societies are, the Earth's magnetic field sustains our existence. It sustains everything that we live in, our total environment. And this is something that we've forgot. So with an MRI or some type of a magnetic influence on the body, our body is an electrical unit. So it would have a positive effect on that, or it would have an effect on that.
Are you saying then that the universal energy that flows in us and through us and connects us to the energy of the Earth may be changed as a result of being in harmony with the magnetic energy and far infrared energy from the sun?
Listen, absolutely, and I'd even take it a step further.
Please do.
And that what man-made development had done, and this is the important part about the education part of it, what these wonderful professionals are talking about, is educating people and understanding that when we develop products, when we're developing magnetic fields, and this is what's amazing with your products. With my background, we develop a magnetic field, but unfortunately our magnetic fields are expanding and contracting 120 times a second. So in perspective with what we are, this is invasive to us.
Curtis, be specific. What has your thermal imaging shown with magnetic insoles, with Nikken technologies like the rollout and so forth? What have you seen?
Well, what I'd like to go with that is the same thing. When you talk about magnetic fields are not created equal. It's a very specific science, and what Nikken has done by taking these lower Gauss uniform throughout the whole product magnetic field that is not this invasive process is just absolutely commendable, and it's truly going to revolutionize the world. And that's exactly what I've seen with this technology, and it's been a frustrating experience for me. And perhaps this is why we have to learn these things. My father died 3 years ago of leukemia and diabetes. And to image him and to look at the medications that he was taking to treat symptoms was just a horrific experience and a humbling one for me and my family and everybody else. And to be introduced to these products, and again, to go at you guys as a very skeptical engineer, again, hoping I'm going to kick your butts and do those things. And to have you guys show me that, listen, Nikken has gone above and beyond the call of duty in producing these wonderful products that are applicable to everybody. And what we want to do with the thermal imaging, again, is give these wonderful professionals the ability to actually see the befores and afters of what they're doing.
Let's give Curtis Bennett a hand. One last question. Have you, by any chance, had any experience with the Nikken technologies personally on your own physical well-being?
Well, boy, do I have some stories to tell you. Well, first, as an engineering kind of guy, we're a little bit strange the way we do things because everything has to be for a particular reason. So the first thing I did when you saw my images up on a screen of my foot, I saved any imaging that I did of people with befores and after with Nikkens. I didn't want to pollute my train of thought, so I saved me till last. And I know that I would pull my foot back and I would feel this blockage in there and I would feel my foot swell up, hot flashes, and there's something bad going there. I would go and see my doctor, who was a wonderful man. He would allow me my 15 minutes. He would say, listen, you've got a pulse there. I'll send you for an x-ray. Besides that, for me to stand on these $100 Canadian pair of insoles, and after a year, the mobility in my foot has increased 400%. By drinking clean water, and that's where you guys come into it too, because environmentally we've got some problems with water. Clean water, with creating that environment for this wonderful doctor to know what it needs to do within itself, has just been tremendous. And I've even taken this a step further, and with Roger, you'll get a kick out of this because of the dental industry. My family at Christmas time, I got a toothache, and I could feel this swelling up around above my mouth. And this is when all I had was the mag steps. So my family, there I found my doctor. The doctor had gone skiing. So what I did is I had the tips of my insoles, that little curved part there. So there I sit down at Christmas time, and I've got this horseshoe thing taped to the front of my face. And they said, "What are you doing?" And I said, according to what Nikken and according to what magnetics does, I said, this is going to reduce the inflammation, take care of the toxins, and take this back to where it is. So at night, I would put the mag step under my pillow. And that was on December 24th last year. And this is an amazing thing with the design again, not being this invasive process, is that after a week's period, I felt this start to throb in a few days, the swelling went down, and I have not been to the dentist.
I find that shocking. I can't believe that anyone would not want to go to the dentist. Shocked. So I guess, Curtis, could we say that the body has 9 physiologic intelligences? One of them tells our body what to do. For example, it tells your heart when to beat. It tells you when to breathe while you're sleeping at night. It tells the food when to move along your GI tract. And that what these technologies are doing, if I understand you, is they're putting the body, that intelligence, in a position to heal itself. Because we don't heal anything. We just create an environment for healthier human beings and let that innate intelligence work. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And something that I'd like to share as well is that I've been imaging people for over 20 years. And to see a difference, to see these different circulation issues with people, to see all these things going on, you don't see changes. I haven't seen typical changes, and to see what your products are doing simply by creating that environment, staggering. And when they were talking yesterday about that vision of being 200 countries, you guys are going to rule the world. And when you've got professionals like this stepping outside the box, and there's more to come, we're going to take this forward and do wonderful things with it. And I'm looking forward to participating in that.
Armed with partners like the likes of Curtis Bennett and his genius, he will empower all people who want to share the message about what wellness is about. And incidentally, speaking that way about dentists, it offended me. But, you know, when I left practice, we had 2 generations of children that didn't know what it was like to have a tooth drilled. Because through fluorides and sealants, we prevented the most common disease known to man. This today is just about an extension of what dentistry's known all along. So take that. Anyway. Dr. Jean-Pierre Desroses from Paris, France. I have recently seen an article in the Wall Street Journal. It says, visions of wealth and independence lead professionals to try multi-level marketing. Now, you're a physician in France. First of all, think about that question and tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, Roger. First of all, I was born and raised in France, in the south of France, and I got my medical training in Paris in La Pitié-Salpêtrière School of Medicine, and I graduated last year with a hypnotherapist.
Wonderful. Now, Dr. Desroses is a unique individual, as you'll find out this afternoon, for those of you who haven't found that out so far. Because he is the Wellness Consultant of the Year for France. He and his wife, Regine. Actually, I think it's Regine is just bringing you along. Is that, no.
Yes.
And I'm familiar with that scenario myself. So, also did almost $1 million in volume last month, broke 22 silvers, and is platinum and will be diamond before Orlando. So let's give Dr. Desroses. I'd love to do that. Put the date on you. Oh, Dr. Desroses, I love to do that. It's called hanging yourself by my tongue.
By your tongue.
Now, Dr. Desroses, I know that you understand and appreciate the importance of this industry as it relates to what we talked about in the Wall Street Journal. Have y'all seen this? This is August issue of Fortune magazine. Are you familiar with the two individuals on the cover? Do you know who they are? Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. How many of you have respect for Warren Buffett's intellect with regard to financial matters? I mean, I would think that if Warren Buffett had an idea that would be important to follow his vision, would you not agree? Well, in this issue, I think he's doing better than most of us in this room. In this vision, in this version of Fortune magazine, this issue, it purports that Warren Buffett has just purchased a network marketing company called Pampered Chef, $747 million in assets. Now, why do you think Warren Buffett would pick something like network distribution? It's because it represents the most recent step in the evolution of the free enterprise system in the world. Now, back to you, Dr. DeRose. Share with me your journey in network distribution and why would you as a physician pick this?
Okay. I will make a long story short. I was first introduced to network marketing in 1984 here in the States, in Florida. And we've been working with this industry for more than 15 years. And then we got bankrupt. And 4 years ago, somebody that I didn't know gave me a phone call and talked to me about a business opportunity. He didn't want to tell me what it was all about. He didn't talk about magnets or anything else, but he was polite. He was English, and he said maybe we should join and do something. And he kept phoning me for at least 4 months. And one day I told him, "Your business, you sell something, you sell products. I want to be a customer. If it works, then maybe we should join and do something together." And he sent me a back flex. Okay, that's the right word, canker flex, because I had a chronic back problem dating from 1985, and I was trying to avoid surgery, as many people here may be avoiding surgery. And I had a very extraordinary experience because I put on the back flex, and in 10 seconds, like that, the pain was gone. That was my first experience with Nikken. And why did I choose to get started with Nikken? Because I believe in network marketing. I think it's one of the best. This is the best way to break free, if you want to break free. How many people in the room are new distributors? Less than 6 months. Okay. My advice to you is to hang on, because this is the only way for you to become rich. I'm not talking about financial independence, to become rich. Rich with friends, rich with personal growth, rich with money, and so on. This is one of the best business. It's the best business in the world, I think.
Dr. DeRose, you brought a lot of your business associates here from France and Switzerland. What is your vision for your team for the next 12 months?
For the next 12 months, okay, if I knew you were talking about this, I shouldn't have come. Okay, for the next 12 months, what I see is something marvelous. I see at least 10 or 12 platinums, and a bunch of, I think, dozens of gold distributors. And I think that the volume will be more than tripled in the next 12 months. And I see people in France and in Switzerland and in Belgium beginning to make a very good amount of money in this business, because they deserve it. We went Distributor of the Year in France, but we didn't do it by ourselves. It was the work of a team with my sponsor, Jean-Marie Gilbert, who's there. Can you wave your hand? Tu peux te lever la main? Okay. He's my sponsor. And I did it with all the peoples that are around this table. Okay, can you wake up? Can you stand up, please? At least 12 platinums, 2 or 3 diamonds, I think.
Well, we salute you, Dr. Desroses, for, the reason I asked him for this is because it's all about vision, a vision of freedom, a vision for total wellness. I'll leave you with this thought. There's an English poet, Percy Bysshe Shelley, who said this: I met a traveler from an antique land who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand on the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell well the passions that the sculptor read, the hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed. Now on this pedestal, these words appear: My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing remains round this colossal wreck. Boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far, far away. The reason nothing remains around this colossal wreck, ladies and gentlemen, is because King Ozymandias had no vision. Join me in saluting the pioneers of the future. Join me in saluting the people who do have the vision, who are helping us to create the wellness revolution. Let's give them a hand.